This is the MG ZS Petrol, the new generation model, which is more high-tech than before. And look, I've already done a full detailed review on the hybrid, but we're going to take a look at this petrol model, which is much cheaper. So is it the best value choice that you could make? Well, I've got some alternatives that you should consider, and I'll tell you everything else you need to know about the ZS Petrol in this review. So stick around. If you've already subscribed, thanks very much. Thanks for watching, and let's keep going with it. As I said just a few seconds ago, I've already done a full detailed review of the ZS hybrid models. Now they sit at the top of the ZS range, and if you want to see that review, the link's in the description. I was really impressed with it generally, and I thought that maybe it could be the best small hybrid SUV that you could buy. But what about these petrol models? Well, they are considerably cheaper. In fact, the entry-level version, it's called Excite. It starts at $26,990 drive away. That is very impressive, considering that SUV has a 10-year warranty. I'll tell you about the warranty stuff later on, but it does have heaps of standard spec and tech as well. You do get halogen headlights, which is a disappointment, but you get 16-inch alloy wheels, there's push-button start and cloth seat trim, a 10.25-inch touchscreen media system with sat-nav, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. There's a smartphone app that you can connect up to the car and control some elements as well. And if you can afford to spend a little bit more, well, you will get quite a bit more in the Essence grades of the ZS. Now, there's two different versions available, the standard one and the turbo one. The turbo one, well, I'll tell you the engine details shortly, but it seems like a walk-up start if you do like to drive, because yeah, we'll get to the driving stuff later on. But let me tell you about what you're getting if you step up from the Excite into the Essence grade. Well, 17-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights, automatic high beam lights, as well as auto wipers, power folding mirrors. There's keyless entry, panoramic sunroof. You get a 7-inch digital instrument cluster, a 12.3-inch touchscreen, a better sound system, heated front seats, rear air vents, which you don't get in the base grade. You get fake leather trim and better lighting on the inside as well. And then if you do decide to go for the ZS Essence Turbo, well, you're getting 18-inch alloy wheels, electronic gear lever, which is a bit different to the standard one, selectable drive modes, and climate control. So do you think that the Turbo might be the best bet for the money, or would you go for this one? Or would you go for one of these alternatives? Look, if you're on the tightest of budgets and you want a good little SUV, go and have a look at the Chery Tiggo 4 Pro. I was really impressed by that car. It starts at 24 grand drive away, and it comes with a turbo petrol engine as standard, 7-year warranty as well, and plenty of stuff for the money in that entry-level version. But if you spend just a few $1,000s more, you're getting a really impressive small SUV for not a whole lot of cash. That Tiggo 4 Pro could be a really good choice for you if you want a lot for your money and you're willing to roll the dice on a newer brand. If you aren't, what about the Skoda Kamiq? Now, it's a very impressive small SUV with some premium finishes on the inside. It is from a reputable, well-known brand, and it does have a 7-year warranty as well. I really love the Skoda Kamiq. It's a fantastic thing. So if you're looking for something that maybe has a bit of Euro flair, the Skoda could be a straight up goer. And well, if you are looking for just a very affordable small SUV, the GWM Haval Jolion might be worth a look as well. They have changed some things with the recent update to that model. It's got a much smaller boot now, so it's maybe not as practical as it once was, but it does have a huge back seat and plenty of features for the money, so it could be worth a look. You'll find links in the description below for all of the reviews I've done of all of those models, and tell me if you think there's one that I've missed in the comments section. The new generation ZS is taller, it's wider, but it sits a little lower compared to the previous one. It's got a longer wheelbase as well, so it looks just a bit sleeker and a bit more laid back. Now, it's actually based on the same platform as the MG3 hatchback, and it shares plenty with it, but it does have a bit more practicality as a result of its bigger body. So you'll see all the dimensions that you need to know on your screen now. If you're wondering about ground clearance, well, you do get a bit more than an MG3 if you're choosing this model. I think it looks really good. This mid-spec petrol version, for the money, well, it's got plenty of wow factor and street cred. I reckon it looks really great. Now let's have a look at the back. It's also a pretty tidy rear end design, and the boot space, well, yes, it's good as well. So no electric tailgate if that matters to you, but look, I think that you're getting plenty of space in the back here. 443 litres is the cargo capacity claim. Just keep in mind, you do have some really great features in the back. You've got shopping bag hooks up the top there, little cavities on either side. There's a little safety triangle as well. And on this side, same again. You've got a light, you've got a shopping bag hook, you've got a cavity there, and underneath there, a space saver spare wheel. That is nice. Some other small SUVs don't have spare wheels anymore. This one does though, which is great. Yeah, not bad at all. Let's take a look inside and see what it's like. It's a big step up from the previous MG ZS, that's for sure, and I do like the interior finishing here. The details are pretty good and the spec is on point for this point in time. So let's have a look, shall we? There's no head-up display, which maybe is a disappointment for some, but you do get a digital instrument display there with a digital speedo on that side. Up there is your speed sign recognition, which might get on your nerves, and you've also got your rev counter on that side. And on the steering wheel, there are some controls to adjust some elements of that screen, but as you can see, the steering wheel buttons, well, they're that piano black finish, and they really get grimy looking suddenly. So that's not great in my opinion, but at least you will get your head around these controls relatively quickly if you are, well, spending a bit of time in the car at least. So you've got your cruise controls on this side. That's to adjust the distance and that's to adjust the speed. And on this side, you've got some controls for your menus on screen and also your volume and tuning for your car. So if you use the button on the screen there, you can see that you can jump through the controls there on the screen using those buttons down there. And if you press this little icon, that will take you back to using controls for the media system. So a little bit of learning, but honestly, you get used to it pretty quickly. Now let's talk about that media system. As you can see, it is very glary. I had this complaint in my ZS hybrid review, but it really does show up a lot of glare. It's not very anti-reflective, and that's bloody annoying in my opinion, but it does have some good features. Apart from the fact that it's missing wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, you still have to plug in using a USB, which is a bit old school in my mind, but you do get nav included as standard. It is relatively good. If you're the sort of person who wants to use sat nav, then fine. I'm a car player myself, and you've got car controls on screen as well. So some of these you might want to spend a bit of time getting to know. You've got steering adjustments. You can adjust whether you want auto hold on, so that's whether the car will creep forward in traffic or not. You've got your MG pilot system. So here is an important one. If you want to use cruise control that's adaptive cruise control, you use that one. That one there is intelligent cruise. So there's a little bit of info there that tells you it will stop, start and steer for you. If you don't like that, well, adaptive cruise will be a better choice. Now there's other things here that I don't necessarily love, like this intelligent overspeed alert. So I turn that off. That's basically to tell you that there's a speed limit sign and you're going too fast. Speed limits change a lot in my area. Maybe it's just me, but that gets on my nerves. You've also got some other elements to the car controls here in terms of your sensitivity for the ADAS systems, your lane departure, and so forth. There's lots and lots of configurability, convenience stuff that you might want to play with as well, and your lighting too. You've got Bluetooth, as you would expect, and you can do Bluetooth audio as well if you want to, or radio if that's what you prefer. But it's definitely not the most amazing system to live with, but I think it's good enough for the purpose of this vehicle. And also the 360 camera is really good in my opinion. For a little cheap car like this, it does make a big difference to be able to, well, easily see what you need to see when you need to see it. And it's good when it triggers on and off when you're driving as well. So all of that seems pretty good. You can see that menu there that says bind vehicle. So that's if you want to do smartphone pairing to this car and use the app to control some elements. You can even watch USB video on this car if you want to. And your climate control system, well, it is on screen as well. You can turn it on and off using that little trigger there, but the actual fan control, that's on screen. Your temperature control is on screen. It's not a proper climate control system, but it has cold or hot. And your seat heating is on screen as well. So those things are things that you will want to pay attention to. And also your research button, you have to do that on screen too. So all of those things might get on your nerves. You've got volume buttons there and a home button as well, but yeah, it's maybe not the most amazing system. But there is a drop-down menu and you can easily turn off your emergency lane keeping if you don't want that on. Shame you can't just add a few more favorites there. Hopefully that will be available at some point in the future. But I think this screen is okay. Not perfect, but okay. So down here, there's no wireless phone charger, another little bit of a disappointment, but you do get USB-A and USB-C ports, a 12-volt port, regular looking shifter. In the turbo, it's a different one. Your start button is down there in this Essence grade, electronic park brake. You've got cup holders with an adjustable middle section, and in there you'll find a set of keys, and covered center console bin. You've also got bottle holders in the doors, a decent sized glove box for a little car, and a little shelf in front of the passenger, which could be handy. And the seats, well, they are electrically adjustable for both front seats, which is nice. No memory settings for the driver though. And above here, you've got illuminated vanity mirrors, as you can see when you open it, the light comes on. And here, you don't have an auto dimming rear view mirror, just a flicky mirror and a little sunglasses holder. You've got your controls there for this panoramic glass roof, which is actually pretty nice. And I really like the fact that you've got a light headliner. It just makes it feel airier and more enjoyable, in my opinion. All right, let's check out the second row space. Plenty of good things to talk about here, people. So this seat is set for my driving position. I'm 6 foot and I've got heaps of knee room. For a small SUV, it's bloody impressive. Lots and lots of foot wiggle room too. And the headroom, again, excellent. I mean, this is almost large SUV levels of space. In fact, some large SUVs don't have this much space, so that's impressive. You've got overhead grab handles. One thing that's missing in the back here is any form of illumination. There is no lighting. And that is a big consideration, especially for parents and those who are, well, going to have to get their kiddos in and out after dark. Now, in here, you will also find you've got map pockets on both seat backs, which is great. There are directional air vents, another win. A USB-A port, just the one. There is a small transmission tunnel intrusion, but it's not too bad. And when it comes to the space in the back here, well, you can fit a couple of kids' seats. There are ISOFIX points in the window seats, 3 top tethers as well. No flip down armrest, so no center cup holders, but honestly, I think you'll be able to still fit 2.5 adults back here, pretty comfortable. I'm not saying that I want to be the half, but that's just the reality. Also, I'll just call out soft elbow pads on the doors. And at the top, it's easy to clean plastic, let's say that. So I think this is pretty good, but maybe not perfect in terms of the backseat experience, but the space is unbelievable. So, as I said, the entry-level versions of the ZS Petrol come with a non-turbocharged petrol engine. It's a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder engine with 81 kilowatts and 140 newton meters. Those are okay numbers, but it has a CVT automatic transmission and it's exclusively front-wheel drive, so it's maybe not the thrill machine that you're after. If you are after a bit more grunt, that Turbo Essence model has 125 kilowatts and 275 newton meters, so almost double the torque. So it will certainly feel more thrilling to drive. It is heavier. I'll put the weights for all 3 versions on your screen now, and we'll get to the fuel consumption stuff later on. Also keep in mind, your maximum towing capacity for the ZS Petrol is just 500 kilos. All right, let's go for a drive, see what it's like. All right, so let's go for a drive in the MG ZS. Remember, this is the non-turbo, the non-hybrid, the non-engine. In some ways, that's actually pretty fitting because this is not the engine I would choose. It's adequate, but just. I've had some instances of serious, well, chug in this car, like actual chugging when you're just driving and the car's cold. It chugs like an old car. And it even stalled when I was reversing out of my driveway the other day. Not great, I have to say. But if you're the sort of person who is just gonna saunter around town, gently throttling and make sure you warm up the car every single time you get in it, it might be okay. But for me, this engine is basically robbed by this CVT automatic transmission, which makes a less enjoyable experience than it might otherwise have been. So yeah, revving hard, but not going fast. That seems to be a bit of a common theme with this powertrain. So yeah, it's not the greatest engine, but I think generally in other ways it is pretty great to drive. There's multiple adjustments that you can make to the steering in this car. So if you want it to feel sportier in terms of the steering, you can. But I think that the general steering feel is okay and the responsiveness is actually pretty good. It's urban friendly in terms of the driving manners, and the ride comfort is exceptional, I would say, for a car of this size at this price point. It nails it because it's comfortable and it still feels pretty well composed over sharp bumps and lumpy edges. So I think that from those dynamic elements, it's pretty good. It handles itself okay through corners as well, but it's certainly let down by this particular powertrain. It's not my favorite. And when it comes to the other elements of the drive experience, well, there's the safety stuff to keep in mind. As I mentioned earlier on, I've turned off the speed sign recognition system. You have to do it every time you jump into the car if you don't like it. But yeah, it just might get on your nerves. And I would recommend turning off the emergency lane keeping if you're the sort of person who doesn't like being pushed around, because I do that. Turn it off every time I drive because it doesn't really do what I think it should do in some instances. But look, if you want to put your life in the hands of the car and you feel comfortable with the safety systems in a new car like this, then fine, go for it, live with them. But for me, they just get on my nerves a little bit. And I guess this car more generally doesn't really thrill me. It might be fine for you, but I think there are better turbocharged options, of which I mentioned many in the alternative section, that you might want to consider. All right, what about fuel consumption then? Is there any redeeming factor there? On your screen, you'll see the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the non-turbo, non-hybrid standard ZS models, and it's okay. It's certainly not brilliant. And I'll put up there now the turbo number as well, because it is slightly higher. It's got, double the torque, so I'm not surprised by that. But yeah, neither of them are brilliant compared to the hybrid, which in itself is not mind-blowingly good in terms of fuel consumption claims. But if you're wondering what real-world figures you can expect to achieve, I'll put what I've seen on your screen right now. So that could be a good guide if you do the sort of driving that I do, urban, freeway, commuting, that sort of stuff. Then you could probably see close to the number that I've seen. And also keep in mind, it needs 91 RON regular unleaded, so the cheaper fuel at the servo for the non-turbo, non-hybrid models, but those more expensive versions require 95, and all versions have a 55-litre fuel tank. So, I mean, at least you should get decent driving range, in theory at least, out of this powertrain. The MG ZS Hybrid has achieved a 4-star ANCAP rating based on 2024 criteria, and that is, well, obviously not perfect because it's not a 5-star score, but it's definitely better than the existing ZS because there's heaps more tech and spec fitted to this model, including things like autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, there's adaptive cruise control, there's lane keeping assistance, there's emergency lane keeping, you've got blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, and there's rear parking sensors, and a surround view camera is standard too, which is excellent. There's speed zone recognition, which bings and bongs and gets on your nerves a little bit, but thankfully no driver monitoring camera. And when it comes to the airbag coverage, well, it's missing a front center airbag. That's part of the reason it achieved a 4-star score rather than 5, but it does still have dual front, side, and curtain coverage for the window seat occupants. What do you think? It's obviously not the ideal 5-star score, but I think it's still got plenty of safety stuff. MG offers a 10-year, 250,000 kilometre warranty in Australia, which is the best you can get. There are some others out there with decade-long warranties, but they are reliant on you servicing with the brand. MG's is not. You also get 10 years of roadside assistance included, which is brilliant, but you need to keep this in mind. You've got a 10-year cap price servicing plan, or 150,000 Ks, so your services are every 12 months and 15,000 kilometres, but the servicing is bloody expensive. There's no two ways about it. For a small SUV with a non-turbo petrol engine, it is rich in terms of the ownership costs. You'll see the average over that 10-year plan on your screen now, and that could be a deal breaker. If you're looking for a cheap SUV, well, it's not cheap enough to maintain in my opinion. You tell me what you think in the comments. Look, I really like the MG ZS, but I don't like this engine. It is not the pick in this range. In fact, if you are considering a cheaper version of the ZS, definitely go and test drive the Turbo. I haven't driven it yet, but I'd love to know if you want me to do a review of that one as well. If you do, hit me up in the comments and I'll see if I can arrange it. But also make sure you check out my detailed review of the hybrids because they seem to stack up pretty well too. Would you pick this, the hybrid version, or one of those alternatives I mentioned earlier on, or something completely different? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you when I see you.